Good morning. It's good to be here. It's time to bring a report back to the council in Jerusalem, so here I am. But I actually believe there's something really powerful in that. I would not like to be doing what we're doing without a group that we're anchored to back in Jerusalem or our home base. So thank you for being a part of that. We do appreciate it. Last 6 months, 6 months or a year, I've been processing the death, burial, resurrection, and also the bride of Christ, and what that package is. And I'm not sure if I know much more than I did, but I have a lot of questions and revelation along the way. So when Adam and Eve were here, they kind of messed things up. They did mess it up, just face it. And their choice, their decision affected all of us because we are their descendants. And it is a thing. So what's the solution? Well, obviously, most of us would believe that Jesus Christ is the solution. But then why does the world go past us and it doesn't look like it is the solution or that it's applied? Like, how does this work? So we go back to Luke 19. Jesus was riding into Jerusalem. This was leading up to the crucifixion. When he was riding into Jerusalem, people came out by the thousands, and they were fired up. They believed their king had come. They were 100% wrong, 100% right at that point. They believed so passionately that their king, their deliverer, their redeemer was going to come and throw off the tyranny of Romanism. These guys were jacked. Somebody tried to shut it down, and Jesus said, let me read the words here. Where are we at? He said, I tell you, if these people should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out. Can you imagine the momentum, the force coming from that crowd if that was actually the reality? Now, I also believe there was a spiritual element there that directly played into this thing that was probably the bigger factor in this thing. But these people thought their Redeemer and their King had come, and he would turn their life upside down in a good way. Funny thing is, actually it's not very funny, but the reality is, within a week or two, some of these same people were crying for him to be crucified. How does this work? Are we that unstable? Or was there elements at work? Actually, I'm thinking out loud here. I believe they were tapping into something in the spirit realm, which was a call of Jesus Christ to die and be redeemed for us. And they didn't understand it fully, and they thought he was a physical king to come. And they killed him a week or two later. The passion that was there. I've occasionally watched short video clips of Trump rallies. They'd put me to tears. Why? I see the passion, I see the momentum, I see the synergy. And my question is, what would it look like to have this for Jesus? We need to look at that stuff. If we can have it for a man named Donald Trump, can we have it for Jesus at that level? I'm saying corporately as mankind. I was at a Trump rally one time. There was a lot of passion there. And I just look at the crowd, and I'm like, man, if we could switch this, or grab this passion and put it to Jesus. Now, I do believe that is happening, but we need more of it. The passion so much, if we would shut it down, the rocks would cry out. But why was that so important? Jesus came and died, and then what? The disciples thought it was over. Can you imagine? They thought they were going to set up this earthly kingdom. They were going to be in the throne room with the King Jesus. They were wrong, and they were also right. They weren't seeing spiritual yet. They were only seeing in the natural. And I believe this right here is a key area where me and you trip over ourselves sometimes. We're spiritual beings in a natural body, and it is better if we don't foul up the process. Because we're called to live in the Spirit while dealing with the natural and living in the natural at the same time. How do we do that? Best way I know how to do it is to simply walk with God and allow Him to teach us and show us the way. I don't understand it the way I desire. However, I understand more pieces of it than I did 10 years ago. The more I understand, the more life works. And then some days it seems that doesn't always quite work either. However, at the end of the day, Jesus Christ is still King. But then, if you go into Revelation, it starts talking about the bride of Christ. So, I have a word for you. You are Jesus' bride. Do you care? Is there any passion there? How much life is in me and how much life is in you because of that thing right there? The passion, the momentum, the joy of being one with Jesus Christ in the next realm. Where is it? Me and you were born with a death sentence. We were sentenced to die and live life eternally lost. Jesus Christ came and died to break that thing. Do we act like it? We've got to look at this stuff. Do I act like it? Do you act like it? And then furthermore, He didn't just die, He arose again, and He says, I'm now your bridegroom. If I look at the church, and I look at what Jesus designed, I'm like, poor Jesus. I mean, not poor Jesus. Let me take that back. It's not the way I meant it, but it's the thing I want to bring out. I mean, the church isn't very pretty most places. But the Bible says there will be a remnant in the end times that will be alive, that will be vibrant, that is eagerly awaiting for the wedding day that is to come. Are you in that party? I am. The days I don't feel like it, I choose anyway. American Christianity has become, how can I word this? It has become based on feelings and emotions that tend to be largely godless instead of the truth. Lance Wallnau teaches that we do not need another revival. We need reformation. If you have revival, a bunch of things happen and it dies away, and 100 years later, you can see that some good things happen, but where did the fire go? Where did the life go? But a reformation is utter transformation of a person, and then families, and then regions and communities. We are here for this season to bring reformation. In reformation is revival, but it's bigger than that. I'm not saying revival is bad. We do need that. But what we really, really need is reformation. We need to clean up the bride, and it starts right here with me, and it starts with you. He bled and died to break the death penalty on me and you. Do we live like it? Do we burn? Do you? I meet a lot of people who hear this stuff, but they're like, how do I get there? Well, number one, it's not a destination, it's a journey of walking with God. I pressed in for years to arrive, and then I realized, well, shoot, it's not going to happen in this life. However, it is a journey of walking in oneness with God that becomes sweeter and more pure and refined the longer we walk with Him and the more mature we get. This is a journey of relationship. If you want the power and the authority that is in this book right here, you simply go to God and you hang out with Him. What does that look like? I don't know. It's different for each person. Talk with Him. Speak with Him. When I have God time, I don't talk much. I just hang out. What does that look like? We're just there together. And I'm not even sure how to describe it, but don't try to manufacture my experience and yours, because you have your own way. And if you don't know what it is, find it. How do I find it? Say, Lord, I want this thing. And you press in, and you press in, and you pray, and you fast, and you press in until you feel things start coming loose in there. Each one of us is called, if you're born again, you have the DNA, the full package of Jesus Christ in you. It's called the Holy Spirit. Jesus Christ upset the world when He was here. You're called to do the same thing. Why? Do you have Jesus in you or don't you? Is He fire insurance to you, or do you see the Jesus in you as the means to help contribute to birth a reformation in this time, in this hour? I'm called to birth a reformation. I've seen little, and I want to see much more happen. Does your life look and act and smell and feel and hear and taste of this thing that you care what Jesus did for you? We're the bride. We should be excited. There's some days I don't feel it, but it does not change the reality. The days I don't feel it, I choose to believe it anyway. Why? Because it's a reality. It is in the Bible. It's in the Word of God. Well, how can you say the Bible is true? Once the Holy Spirit touches somebody and messes them up, it's a bit hard to undo that. Right now, we started a small church in a Muslim village way out in the bush. We have church in the dirt and the goat manure. The previous church that was there was shut down by the Muslims, or by the radical Muslims in the village. And we are pushing, and we're pushing, and we're pushing into principality. And I feel it. And we're pushing into this thing. I keep reminding myself, according to the Bible, it's finished. Well, then bless God, it better manifest. It is a whole lot easier for me to come here right now and release what I'm called to release than in that little village where I know we haven't broken through yet. There's witch doctors, there's idol worship, there's Satanism, there's a whole bunch of garbage going on. Extreme poverty. But guess what? It will happen. Why? Because we said so. We're coming into agreement with the Word of God right here. And we're saying this thing shall break. About 2 months ago, we moved 14 hours north into what felt like a desolate, dry, parched area. And there is so much demonic debauchery and stuff going on, it is ridiculous. It is so difficult living there that even the people in Ghana, in the southern and the central part of the country, said it's too difficult for us to go up there. And then I went up there with my family, alone. Whew, the last 8 weeks was rough. I've never shared this, but it kind of, never mind, skip that. Won't go there. But it's been intense. But we're contending for something. Reformation. In the last 28 years that Crusades for Christ has done church planting, people who were involved 20, 25 years ago said that when the gospel touches a village for the first time, something happens, but in the following years, it transforms individuals, families, and communities. But we need to go in with a long-term vision. This isn't a drive-by shooting. It's hold and occupy. Do you live your life as if you care that somebody died for you? Let's just say that somebody, I don't know, firefighter or soldier or neighbor or somebody dies to rescue somebody else, and the person they were helping lived, another person died. Oh, wow, that's pretty heroic, right? That's pretty cool. What happened for you? Do you live like you care? The curse of sin and the resulting death penalty that was on me and you is broken if we simply reach out to the hand of Jesus and we receive it. Boom! It is broken just like that. Our very first service in the village where we're having church, there was a 19, 20-year-old girl. She's now married with a baby. She was the first convert we had there. She was troubled. She was so oppressed and seemed so distressed. I noticed it. Out of a crowd of about 80 people, I picked her out, and I really felt sorry for her. She came forward. She accepted Christ. In the last 8 weeks, she has come alive. And I'm not even sure how she did it, because most of the women can't read or write. She probably doesn't have a Bible. But something happened. Last Sunday, she was leading worship. There was something happening in her. Her face, her countenance changed, and it's still changing. Because something happened. There was a shift that happened, and a seed was deposited, and it is growing. I encourage you and myself to live as if it matters. Will you? I'm not asking if you know how. That's not what I'm talking about. It's a heart position. The wedding party is coming if we're on board or not. As for myself, I will be there. There is no question. It is a choice. Will you? Anyway, an update on our work in Ghana. We got there six and a half months ago. We're living in the southern part of the country, about an hour outside the capital on the Atlantic coast. And I was ministering to the homeless people in the slums. We went there 3 times a week. We have our own center there. And in the past years, they have converted and baptized hundreds of Muslim women and girls and ministered to thousands of others. So the tribe that we're now living with in northern Ghana is the tribe that we're working with in the city. They're called the Mumpresi people. They're primarily farmers, and the women and girls get shipped to the south to work on the streets. They can make a decent living down there, but rent is so high, so they just sleep on the sidewalks and the corners and the alleys and wherever they can. Work for a while, make a bunch of money. That'll be gone, the standard bunch of money, and then they go home again. So years ago, they started capitalizing on all these Muslim women and girls working the streets. And we, Crusades for Christ, has now become known as the organization, and Pastor David, who runs that part of it, as the man who cares for the women and girls when they're living on the streets. Up until January, they had no idea what impact that had in their home villages. People would come for 6 months or a year, they'd get converted, baptized, discipled, and sent home, never to be seen again. So myself and 2 of the leaders from there traveled to the northern part of the country in January to see what the impact is. This is 15, 20 years into it. What we found shocked us. Every single village we went, we were known. People would come running out of the house and start singing the gospel songs that we sing at the center. Village after village, Muslim people asked us to start churches in their village. Why? Because they said, well, there is church there is development. They spoke with Muslim people. We want a church because we want our village to develop. These are people who live hand to mouth, very poor, live in mud houses. The only thing that I see that's changed in the last 200 years is metal roofs, motorcycles, and phones, tractors. But they cook out over open fires, live in mud houses, and they're Muslims, and traditional worship, which is basically idol, demon worship stuff. We went to the one village, met with a contact, and here there was a girl that had been in Accra for 6 months or a year. She got born again and baptized and went home and started a church. It was a single girl, started a church in a Muslim village that still to this day meets under a tree. This is now a few years later. We had no idea this was happening. Village after village after village. There was seeds planted in Accra that grew when they went home. We were walking through another village, and we met this lady who had been in Accra for a number of years, had come to the minister center. She was ministered to. I'm not sure if she was baptized or not, but she took an audio Bible home, and we found her listening to her audio Bible years later when we walked into her room. Her Muslim father was listening to it with her at that point, and she told us it has changed his life. There's probably hundreds of the Mumprasi villages we did. We were at 7 of them. Hundreds of people knew us. So from that trip, we decided it is time to move to the north and start churches there. Why? We have 2 missions. Number 1, to reach the men, and number 2, to create a landing pad when the people come back from Accra when they're believers. These people practice polygamy. Most men have 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 wives, 10, 20, 30, or more children. So these girls we baptize, go home, and their future is a Muslim husband with multiple wives. So we have a mission to reach the men and to create a solid landing pad for when these girls go back home, that they have churches that can tie into. There are already some churches in the Mumprasi villages. The Joshua Project, which tracks minority groups all across the globe, considers them an exposed but unreached people. There's about 400,000 of them, and in my opinion, probably less than 1% of them are Christians, which puts them in the unreached category. But that number is rapidly changing right now because there is a lot of effort by other churches to reach the people. So my assignment, or our assignment, is not to be the face of it long term, which we are now, but our assignment is to develop a team of local people, and then we empower and we support them. Statistically, in the country of Ghana, the average church that is led by a foreigner is regressing or stagnant. Now, it's not every church. That is the national statistic done by churches. So our goal is not for me to be the face of it in the villages and the churches so much as it is behind the leadership team. So we're developing a leadership team. I am leading a church right now. It's about 6 or 7 women, 30, 40 children come up. Some of them come to church, like some of the children come to church totally naked, and there's goats come up, and it's church. We have church with them. My strong point is not leading a church. I mean, I can do it for a short window of time if I have to, but it is not my strong point. So we are in the middle of developing a leadership team. Well, actually, we have a small leadership team, but establishing that, increasing that, maturing and developing it, who can then go out and reach their people. My point person right now is a 37-year-old lady who was living on the streets of Accra, working from age 9 to 23. Her dad shipped her down when she was 9 years old, and she stayed there till she was 23, went home a number of times for visits, and then got married, and from 23 to 37, she's been back and forth a lot. She has 3 children, but even the women, they'll leave their families and just go work the streets of Accra for 6 months or a year and make money and go home again. So when I got there and I started ministering in Accra along with Pastor David, I met her, and she bought into the vision of us reaching her people. David had been discipling her for years. She was on the leadership team there. And she said, when you start churches in the north, I want to go with you. So when we moved north, she went home to her family. She's planning to stay. She's 37 years old. Her husband has 3 or 4 wives. She knows it's not biblical. She hasn't felt released to leave her husband and her family. Because in that culture, when a wife leaves her husband, the children stay with her husband. So, it puts these women in a tough spot. And I've sat in conversations and listened to them and said, we know what the Bible says. We know our situation. How do we redeem this? We keep pointing them back to, you need to go to God with it. So, this lady, who's married to a Muslim man with multiple wives, is our point person. She is leading a service this weekend and next weekend. But she's a woman. Well, hallelujah, she's a woman. If we need men, then the men better step up. Right now, I got a woman that I trust. So she is the main person that I work with. She translates, she understands the culture. The village where we started the church is where her mom lives. She knows pretty much everybody there. And we're building it largely around her. How does that fit in the box? It doesn't, but it's fine. If you have a better idea, then come on over. Come on. If you got a better idea, let's do it. I'm open. I'm open to better options. But we have committed people who are doing the best they know how in the situation that they're in. And I can come alongside that. Probably one of the biggest shocks that I experienced moving from southern Ghana to northern Ghana was the mindset, the lack, the poverty. These people ration everything. They ration water, ration food, ration fuel. Everything is based around lack. We've lived in 5 countries. We've been exposed to a lot of stuff. But most of what we were exposed to was as a result of a crisis. This is generations of dysfunction. The shift from the southern part of the country to the northern part of the country was more extreme than from the U.S. to the southern part. It is the biggest culture shift we have ever run into in our years of living and traveling abroad. And we're still not quite sure where to put our finger on what exactly this thing is. Yes. Yeah, there's 2 seasons. It's hot and hotter. The hottest part of the year, it's 110, 115 degrees with 5% humidity. That's bearable. Once it starts raining, it cools down, the humidity shoots up. So it's hot and hotter. In the dry, it doesn't rain for 6 months. And it is dead. Completely desolate, dry, just dead. In this natural and in the spiritual. Sewage runs wherever it wants to. People pee and defecate wherever they please, animals and people. I mean, they water their garden produce with sewage and sell it at the market, and then we eat it, and now we're dealing with typhoid fever and giardia and other stuff. 100 years ago, the life expectancy for a missionary in that area was 2 years. In 2 years, they were either dead or so sick they were sent home. There's so much sickness, so much disease, so much poverty. The dry season, they're walking 6-8 miles for water because the wells dry up. We don't have running water in our house part of the time because there's not enough water in our well. It's hot. I've learned to this might be a bit weird for people who don't understand how it's possible, but due to the water shortage we're dealing with, same as everybody else, I've learned to take a shower, you can call it a shower, and make myself squeaky clean with about 3 or 4 quarts of water. And trust me, it is possible. I like to be clean. Now, I learned how to do it with about 5 or 6 little bags of water about this big. It's possible. You do what you're dealt with. But I believe one of our biggest fights has been the spiritual fight. It's Islam, it is demon worship. Like some of the Satanist scenario, so funerals are kind of their thing where they try to flex their spiritual muscles and they're trying to outdo each other in rituals right there in the funeral. I've talked to people who said they've been in funerals where these witch doctors were spitting up live frogs and shooting fire out of their mouth. These are real people using demonic power, and they're trying to outdo each other right there in the funeral. It's intense. It is very intense. Their power. So it's a known fact that if somebody unexpectedly dies there, it was from a curse from a witch doctor. They believe that. One of the most powerful, there's a witch doctor in the area who's a healer. Broken bones, all kinds of messed up stuff from wrecks and cancer. People from all over the country go to him. He heals them just like that. I've driven past his house. I'm like, oh boy, there's a higher power than that. But if I pray for somebody, as a Christian believing in Jesus Christ, and they don't get healed, and they know they can go to the witch doctor and be healed on the spot, why wouldn't they? I'm asking that question from their mindset, not yours. So our belief is there's two ingredients that we need to start the churches there in northern Ghana. We need love to open the hearts and power and authority to pull them in. Not like physically to pull them in, but to draw them in. They understand power and they understand authority. You either line up to it or you die. Some of these people in these very remote areas of the world understand spiritual authority more than 95% of the people in this room. And that's not an exaggeration. They get it. If you mess it up, you're dead. They believe miscarriage, stillborn babies come from curses. A month ago, we had a miscarriage. We were like, what's this? How does this work? We didn't have it figured out. Baby was 16 weeks along, and the midwife we're working with said, this is actually a baby. Said, if you don't want to bury the baby, we will. This baby needs to be buried. So we went to the cemetery. Some grave diggers came out and dug a grave, and I was warned that your grave diggers were normally Satanists because they capitalize on the dead people for their rituals. I was like, oh shoot, that's not going to work. Anyway, I was like, well, we need a grave dug for our baby. And it just happened, I don't know, 5 weeks ago maybe. And so after the grave was dug, we went, had a short service, buried the baby. And then as we were leaving, the guy that was in charge of the whole thing came up to me and said, hey, we need some money. I said, what for? He said, we need some money to buy the things we need to do rituals on the grave. And I said, you're not having any money. I'm not going to pay you to do it. These guys were serious. They were asking me, the father of this baby, for money so they can go to the store and buy the ingredients needed to make their potions and lotions and whatever quacker they were doing and go do a ritual on our dead baby's grave. Whew! That was something to process. And I had to think on the fly. I was like, no, I'm not paying you anything. My next dilemma was, do I tell them they can't do a ritual? And I decided, you know what? I'm not going to tell them that. I ran back to the grave. I anointed that grave with oil and canceled and prayed and protected the sign angels and went home. So I don't know what they meant when they tried to do their rituals on the grave. But I'm pretty sure it was different. It is just the absurdity of some of the stuff. Hunger is normal. It's a normal way of life. One of the guys we're working with said, oh yeah, I eat the same thing 3 meals a day. I said, I hate this stuff. He eats it 3 meals a day. That's what they have. There is a bigger nutrition lack than hunger, but the hunger problem is still big. We're now approaching what they call the hunger season. The hunger season is after the rainy season starts, the crops are planted, but the crops aren't developed enough to harvest and feed them. There's a couple-month window that's called the hunger season, and we're entering that right now. A lot of hungry people, thousands of hungry people. Children with distended stomachs, and I don't know why, but they got these hernias on their belly buttons. I mean, just look out this for these little children, dozens of them. I don't understand where it comes from. Just romping around and running around. I was like, this is crazy. So here we live, and we're dealing with all kinds of parasitic infections and stuff with the children, diarrhea for months. People are freaking out and saying, well, they might die. They're not going to die. It's not going to happen. So it's been, the last 2 months has been a tremendous fight. And it started to shift. So right after we buried the baby, we did communion for 21 days every evening. It was just Mary Beth and I. And that seemed to start breaking through something. I don't know what all happened, but things opened up more between me and God, between Mary Beth and I, and it did something that I haven't been able to identify. And it wasn't this sober, solemn affair. We just sat there and drank some wine and ate some bread and prayed. The whole thing lasted 3-4 minutes, and off we went again. But it did something. But it is so harsh there. The Ghana people themselves in the southern part of the country, it is too tough for us to even live there. And I'm here thinking, no wonder it's a bit challenging for us, because we're cushy Americans compared to what the people there deal with. Has been a lot of fighting and violence in the area. The Mamprasi tribe and a neighboring tribe have been fighting for decades already. In October, the fight broke out again, and in the area we live, there was a whole bunch of people killed and slaughtered, shot, burned, butchered, I don't know what else. Starting in October, but especially January and February. When we went up there for the first time to check the villages out in January, there was a lot of fighting going on. There was gunfights. There was execution. It was a mess. The night before we were going to roll in town where the heart of this thing was happening, it shut down. After we left, it fired back up again, which I've experienced this in multiple places. The last group killing there happened the week before we arrived, and none has happened since then. About 5 or 10 people that were executed a few miles from our house, where our house is now. But we're an hour and a half from the country of Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso and 2 of the surrounding countries have become the new Middle East for Muslim jihadists. It used to be for the last 10, 15 years that the Muslims that wanted to wage jihad war went to Iraq and Syria. A lot of that jihadist flow has now gone to Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. We're an hour and a half from the Burkina Faso border, where Al-Qaeda controls right across the border, and they execute Christians on sight. They shoot them on the spot. So there's suspicions that some of the attacks that have been happening are Al-Qaeda elements coming down out of Burkina and are exploiting the tribal fighting and have their fingers in it. There was dozens of people killed within a mile or two from my house in the last 2 months before we moved there. Stop buses, and they question each person. Every person that's from a certain tribe gets shot right there. None of that has happened since we've been there. The military came in and put a nighttime curfew. You can't move unless you travel by military escort and gun truck to keep things down. A lot of people don't travel at night simply because of the danger. I have no problem traveling at night, and due to some of our previous experiences, it's kind of mild there. But I do want to honor the local people and their wishes. One of the challenges that we're up against now is the road from our house to the village. It's about 40 minutes of dirt road. But these terrorists pop out and do whack-a-mole on the vehicles at night sometimes and kill people and steal stuff and then do nothing for 6 months. And these are happening on the roads we travel every time we go to church. So we want to start evening services, but they're saying, oh, you can't do that. It's too dangerous for you to drive back after dark. So we have to figure out what that looks like, because we do need evening services. One option is to just stay overnight, but they're not sure how me, a comfortable white American, can survive in a village overnight. It's probably not the worst thing I've experienced, but they don't know that. So there's a lot of different dynamics that we're up against: the killing, the violence, the poverty, the disease, the death. If the children get sick, many of them never get sent to the hospital. I don't know why. Either they don't have money or don't care, because children are kind of a byproduct of marriage, and they have a whole bunch of them anyway. It's one less mouth to feed, and after a while, they just kind of get weaker and die. It's different life, a different way of living. So we are, Mary Beth and the children are there right now. We have, yes.
Can it change without the spiritual realm being changed? The physical change if the spiritual realm is changed?
I don't know how. I haven't figured out how to crack that one. I'm still trying to change the physical by the spiritual, and it's a work in progress. But I don't think it can. There is some really good church planting groups in the area working in the villages, and I'm starting to build relationships with. There's some really solid groups there. They know what they're up against, but many of them come from the people in the villages, so they know the ins and the outs and nuances of the culture and the religions and the belief systems and stuff. So,
How far are you from the old race, Ross?
we are about 2.5 hours from them, but we spend a fair amount of time with them. There's a whole Mennonite couple that lives just around the corner from our house. There's probably 20 or 30,000 villages in Ghana, and we end up in a town right beside a Mennonite couple. And we really enjoy them. Doctrinally, we're pretty far apart, but, I mean, we're both there by ourselves. It's harsh. It feels like a harsh, unforgiving environment. So we do spend some time with people like that. There's more missionaries in the surrounding few hours that we're starting to connect with and interact with. Questions?
What do you do for excitement?
What do I do for excitement? Well, this, that, and the other thing. Yes.
The tribes that fight each other, are they both considered Islamic?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, Miriam.
What was your family?
So our philosophy is to immerse them into the local culture. We are not dragging food from here to there. We eat what we can find in the stores there. So we eat it's a blend of the foods we used to eat and the blend of the local foods. So we have a lady working for us 5 days a week. When she's there, she cooks. And that's a local meal. Most of their meals are either corn or yam or rice-based. Without those three, 90% of the diet is gone. They make, if you go to a restaurant, you have 5, 6, 7 options, and about 4 of those are almost the same. Yes?
Are you hungry through hunger season as well, or did you bypass that?
Okay, the question was, did we go through hunger season as well? And the answer is no, we did not.
So how do you avoid that?
How to avoid it? By buying food and eating it.
So the other people there don't have money to buy food?
Oh.
Okay.
So we're working with Open Hands, which is based here in the U.S., and they run savings programs all over the world, where they go into the indigenous areas and they teach them how to save money for their goals. So part of the package is they gather a group of people, typically women, and say, what are your financial goals? What do you want to do? And then they go through a series of teachings, and the group decides as one body how much money they bring into the table at the weekly meeting. It gets kept at a safe place, and at the end of the designated period, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, or 2 years, they get their money back and put it towards their goal. And in this process, you can teach them, mentor them, disciple them financially, physically, spiritually, emotionally. And they have thousands and thousands of people worldwide that are doing this thing. There's no money given to them. It's simply a program where they agree together how much money they bring in each week. And if they miss 2 or 3 times, they're out. They get the money back and they're kicked out. You have to commit to this thing. So in southern Ghana, Crusades for Christ has I'm not sure how many people in that program, and a lot of them. So we're looking at starting this in the north with the goal of hopefully soon having hundreds of people in these savings programs, where we're simply teaching them how to save with their own self-accountability in their community. And most of them are saving up to start a business, to then create income for themselves and their families.
How are your children adapting?
Good. It was, when we were living in the South, I made a group of friends. They had their friends that they hung out with. In the North, we haven't been quite as immersed there as we're in the South. It's been a little harder for them. We did get a dog, so that helped. That was a big deal. They ate dogs and cats and donkeys and horses, cows, pigs, chickens, goats. Pigs are fattened on sewage. It's kind of epic the way some of the stuff gets done. Yes. So the question was, why are he said, you mentioned that the Muslim women and girls are getting converted, but where are the men at? The problem is, if you understand Islam, there's a few things to look at. Number one, the African countries as a whole believe Christianity is a white man's religion. So that's the belief system the men have. Then you take it a step further into Islam. You give a Muslim man all the food he wants, all the sex he wants, enough money to go around, he's happy. The women are beat down and beat up and crank out babies until they can't crank out babies anymore. They're desperate. Therein lies the answer. If a Muslim man has 3 or 4 wives, if he wants another one, he can get another one. Has enough food so he's not hungry, spending cash, life is full and happy. While his wives are working like crazy. The desperation is much higher. I'm not sure how it works there, but in Iraq it was believed that Muslim women cannot enter paradise. In Duhok, where we lived, all the Muslim women were buried 40 inches deeper than the men, so they for sure can't hear them scream when they hit hell. That is Islam at its core. So the women tend to be more open, tend to be more desperate, and are more receptive as a result of it. Does that answer your question? So the question is there any people in the area who have spiritual authority over the principalities? I am still learning the local churches, but yes, I do believe there is some. One of the guys on a leadership team is 19 years old. He's already leading a church at the age of 19. He's seen the dead raised. Bitten by a poisonous snake, is unhurt. Simple, innocent faith, didn't understand it when it happened, wasn't expecting it when it happened, but God moves for the simple. Why I'm here? I'm here to work, to provide for financial needs, and I'm here to preach. I am here for 2.5 weeks. Yep. Yes, David. What is the consequence for someone to have their bone fixed by the witch doctor? I wouldn't want it. I believe it would put a spiritual shadow over the person and their generations. I read an article just this week of people who did studies, and they said the states with the highest level of slavery in the 1800s are today yet the most economically depressed in the nation. There was a long-term study done by people who really dug into this, and they said that it is clearly revealed in the study that the states with the highest levels of slavery before the Civil War are today yet the most economically depressed in the country, in the U.S. here. Like, you don't mess with this stuff. I don't know if there's a black and white answer. It would probably depend on a bunch of different stuff.
Do you believe that how much do you believe would change even in the natural if Christ would come in?
How much would change in the natural? Christ would come in. Rudy, what changed in you when Christ came into you?
Right, but do you believe that even the land would green up and be more alive?
We'll have to at times. So if you look at the continent of Africa on Google Satellite, and I've studied this thing, and you can literally open your phone right now and look at it, and the line is drawn. Where it's desert is Islam, where it's green is Christian. It's a proven fact. Now, there's some variations in that, but there is a line going from east to west, west to east, about halfway down the African continent. Islam is north, and Christianity is south. There's a number of pockets of Islam in the south. There's also a number of pockets of desert in the south. Northern Africa is dry, hot, desert. Southern Africa is green, jungle, lush. Southern Ghana is more Christian than most of the U.S. states are. There is a tremendous amount of churches in southern Ghana. It's almost like Lancaster County. It's green, it's vibrant, it's alive. We went north, it's dead. And I've had people in Ghana tell me that wherever it's dry and desert in Ghana, it's Muslim. Yes.
Is it a fact that when they become believers, they can think clearer so they have better economical realities?
So the question is it a fact that people can think clearer and as a result of that have better economic reality in Ghana? I haven't been there long enough to monitor the trends, but what I have seen is the Christians, they're better dressed, they're better off financially, and they're just a whole lot more alive. So probably yes, but I haven't observed it for very long. But I am watching that thing right there. Yes, David.
Is it true that people adapt to Islamic faith so they have more financial security?
So is it true that people adapt the Islamic faith to have more financial security? I don't know. I do know in northern Ghana, the traditional worshippers, which is basically idol worship and demon worship, and the Muslims and the Christians, they all intermarry however they please. Like you can have a Christian wife, Muslim husband, that kind of thing.
Why? Why do they do that?
What other options do they have? And if you're not married, I mean, you need somebody to take care of you. And the widows become the prostitutes. They need somebody to take care of them. It's rough. It's harsh. It is a very, very harsh way to live. It's do or die. A lot of people die. A lot of people do. So we have a widow that is working for us that's helping Mary Beth in the house. She's there 5 days a week from about 9 in the morning to about 4 in the afternoon. Her husband passed away 8 years ago. She had 2 children at that point. Now they're ages 11 and 17 or something like that. 2 boys. And she said for the last 8 years, they often didn't have food. It's their reality. They had nobody to take care of them. Typically, the family would take care of a widow among them, but she said her family never really stepped up. I think there's some issues there. So she was very, very, very grateful for the work and the resulting pay that we're giving her. Now, she's working 5 days a week, 8-hour days, and she gets paid about $60 a month, $55 a month, and that's high. We had a girl working for us for a while. She's a full-time school teacher, and her monthly wages were like $40 a month. It's $10 a week, about $2 a day, teaching 5 days a week. So COVID destroyed the economy in Ghana. Their inflation it tripled. Something that cost $1 now costs $3 if you convert it into U.S. prices. So, and the government was destructive and completely killed the middle class. So right now, a day's wages for where we live will buy a watermelon. You work all day, you can buy a watermelon at the end of the day. Yep. It's rough. But it wasn't that way pre-COVID. This is my opinion, I haven't studied it much. I mean, I haven't been watching it very long, but my belief is this. 90% of everything that gets sold in the country is only able to be bought by 10% of the population. 90% of the population cannot touch more than 10% of the stuff bought and sold in the stores because financially. The hopelessness and the despair in the situation is horrendous. So I had an election last fall, and the guy that was elected in the president is a Pentecostal preacher. You can go on YouTube, and he's preaching at churches. He's a passionate, fiery man of God. He's the president. When Donald Trump got elected, that man boogied it to the U.S. and met with him before any of them were even inaugurated. Him and Trump were having meetings. So he is intent on eliminating corruption. He's intent on slashing budgets and balancing deficits. And he's doing the same thing Trump is doing here. And him and Trump are talking, even met with each other. He's a step ahead of the U.S. He is arresting and has arrested a whole bunch of crooked politicians. And a bunch of the others fled the country. He's arresting people and saying, you owe us $10 billion. $10 billion in Ghana. You can't find it. Said, pay it back. So that's happening right now. And as a result, the economy is stabilizing through these economic reforms. So one of the reasons I'm here is about 6 weeks ago, the U.S. dollar has been the world reserve currency for a long time already. So the value of the Ghanaian currency is tied to the U.S. dollar. So when I went to exchange money, one U.S. dollar got me about 16 CD, which is the Ghana currency. Suddenly, their economy stabilized, and when I go to exchange my money, instead of getting 16 CDs, I get 10. What that meant for us is the U.S. dollar is worth about 35% less. It's actually why I'm here right now. We couldn't make it financially. We were making it before, but we weren't set up to lose 30% of our spending power, 35%. Now, with time, in the next few years, that should bring the inflated prices down. But in this season, I've been talking to other missionaries, and they're in the same squeeze because their money and their support is U.S. dollars. So it put anybody has U.S. dollars coming in. Like we're saving up for a motorcycle. The one that I was after in U.S. dollars cost $3,300. I mean, they had their Ghana currency price on it. Now, to buy that same motorcycle is now $5,000, but the buying price in Ghana never changed. It's just the amount of dollars that I need to meet that price. That's how it is. It is as if every single thing we bought increased about 35% in price. So I am here I'm working to bridge some of this difference right now, in addition to sharing at churches and stuff like that. Yes? I like that. But that thing, I was speaking with Ross and Cynthia, and it hit them hard too. It's as if you lose 30% of your support. I mean, you didn't lose it, but the value of the support went down 30%. Yeah. Which also means any church, so even Crusades for Christ, so they have their budgets and stuff, the budget no longer meets the cost. And then you have to explain to the board in the U.S., we need to jack everything up 30%, and here's why. So it's hitting anything connected to the U.S. dollar. Now, hopefully with time, the economic reforms that cause this will bring the inflated prices down, but we're not there yet. So the Ghana people are happy that their economy, their currency is stabilizing, but it hasn't reached the common person yet.
For a local businessman in the country where you're referencing, he would want to invest over here, he would have an advantage because he works in
The question is, would a Ghana businessman have an advantage in this economy? He would It doesn't affect him if his business is in Ghana. If his business is international that's linked to the US dollar, his profits would probably drop by 30%. Correct. You're right on that. You're right. Yeah. But for people like me doing business in Ghana, that's where any U.S. business minister mission has U.S. money coming in has a 30% range at it all. The dollar amount didn't change. The prices on the market didn't change, but it's the dollar between the two that changed. Yeah. So it is good long term. There's some short term pain for a lot of people in this process.
If you have more money than you needed for your family, what would you do with it in Africa?
What I would do with it, I would invest in more people.
And more local people there.
The question was, if we would have more money than what we need to support us there, what would we do with it? We would invest it into people. Well, it's a good question. I mean, we're still investing in people here in the U.S. But there's and Iraq. Actually, we have our fingers a bunch of places, not just Ghana. I'm in contact with people from many countries. But specifically, it would probably go into church planning work, into missionary pastor training courses. There's different programs that we're developing that are held back organizationally because there's some funding there, but not quite enough to get some of the stuff off the ground.
Daniel, live stream will be cut off soon. If somebody's listening on live stream, how do they get money to you?
How do they get money to me? Right here, Bob.
So if anybody wants to support Daniel, we actually just in the last couple of weeks set up a separate minister for them, the King's Commission. Talk to me afterwards if you want to support them, but you can send checks to the King's Commission, P.O. Box 10156, Lancaster, PA 17605. You can also, we published their story from Ukraine in the last year and a half. We were working on that. But that book is also available from their story in Ukraine, which the funds go to help support the ministry. Talk to me afterwards if anybody is interested in supporting them. I know some of you in here do support them monthly, and I thank you for that. That will be switching from coming into Light of Hope to switching to the King's Commission over the next few weeks. While Daniel's here, we want to get a bank account and everything set up so they have access to the funds over there. But that's some of the stuff that we're working through right now. But absolutely, there's we'll have a donation link on your website, on your Facebook. We might even set up a website for you. But the King's Commission is an official ministry now for Daniel and Mary Beth. So checks can be written out to the King's Commission. At this point, I'm taking care of all their U.S. side financials and legal side of things, so you can talk to me afterwards. The name of the book is Babies, Moms, and Bibles. That was published here this summer. It is out. We actually just got into Good Store with it, so pretty excited about that. But so if you have any ideas of bookstores to get it into, if you want a copy, talk to me. I can have copies here next weekend. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Thank you.
Do you have a link on your website? On your Facebook?
We do not.
Is there a link on your Telegram channel for donation?
We don't have Telegram.
Within WhatsApp, whatever it is, WhatsApp.
Right, but people have to join.
Has to join the channel.
Yeah, they need to. I don't know. I'm not a tech person. I'm not sure how.
He doesn't know how to join the channel, but
that's why I have friends who understand it.
Facebook.
Daniel Beiler, look for me. It's somewhere and back.
Okay, let's put it this way. If you want to donate to Daniel Beiler's ministry, contact me. Find me on Facebook. Find me on Instagram. Find me on YouTube. Send me a private message. I am David Lapp. Yeah. You can email me, david@lappbrothers.com. You can find me on Facebook at dlap7. So yeah, I will make sure that it goes where it needs to go. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. I understand that Daniel's not tech savvy, but I can help him out on that side of it. So, but yeah, I think we should make it a goal to find people to help support Daniel and the team, that he doesn't have to come to the U.S. simply to earn money. I think we can help him find people to support the mission. It doesn't take that much money, but I think if we all step it up a little bit, I think we can keep him serving where God called him to serve, so he doesn't have to come to the U.S. for a few weeks to earn a few extra dollars. So thank you for being a part of their life.
How much money would you realistically have to have the money?
So in order for us to make this sustainable long term, we need $6,000 a month.
Question was how much they need monthly. Yeah, they're $6,000 a month would be a good number for them.
And that would allow us to, every 18, 24 months, whole family come to the U.S. I mean, it costs a lot to travel with 7 people. So that's all factored in that number.
Yeah. Okay. And I think most of you heard the offer earlier. If you have a better plan on how to reach Africa, he's all ears to help you make that happen.
Yep. Any other questions? Yes, Fanny Man.
Do you have any tips for us to, how do we live with less?
The question is, how do we live with less? My question would be, go to God and find out how He wants you to live. To me, it's not about living less, it's more what does God want for you or want for me. Because we can very soon go into a poverty mindset by trying to live less with less. Other questions? Okay, well, God bless you. It's been good being here. It's been good seeing you again, and God bless you.